didn't take long for Satan to hit the reset button on his grand biogenetic experiment and begin creation of Nephilim 2.0. But he was dealt new limitations with a more volatile environment after the flood. Although historians link the cradle of civilization with Sumer, there are more ancient sites that expose how quickly Noah's grandchildren fell into sin. Modern Turkey, the ancient Anatolia, holds innumerable mysteries as being the battleground or center of the Gentile ancient world. To truly unwrap the mystery of how and why the first Noahic civilizations fell for Satan's repeat genetic agenda, creating a new breed of hybrids, we must visit the site humanity's disembarking point, where the Ark laid to rest on Mount Ararat, Turkey.
Well, we made it to Istanbul, and the stop over here is not by accident. You know, everything is headed to this location on Earth, a demonic showdown that I believe is linked to a very specific place in the book of Revelation called Babylon the Great. And we're going to get more into that as the series commences.
Whoa, so we finally get to start talking about the beast and his end times kingdom in Constantinople?
Sorry, Josh, we can't jump to the climax just yet. Right now, we're headed to the furthest eastern reaches of the Anatolia for our bearded Bible brothers first, to Mount Ararat. Last week's flood myth of Atlantis was so epic, but it's cool to visit the actual biblical location linked with the flood, and I've wanted to find Noah's Ark my whole life. This is in my bucket list.
But Ararat is a mountain, and I don't want to climb another mountain. You know, that's it. If we have to do cardio again, then I'm picking a legit team. Not a B team, not a C team, but an A team to help us on our journey.
All right, deal.
Genesis 8, 1 and 4. But God remembered Noah and all the wild animals and the livestock that were with him in the ark. And he sent a wind over the earth, and the waters receded. And on the 17th day of the 7th month, the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat.
Gentlemen, you may wonder why Kurdish mercenaries came to your homes in the cover of night and brought you here into this bus to sit next to me in the country of Turkey. Well, I'm glad you've asked. I needed, most importantly of all, 2 strong backs to carry my heavy haunches up the hills of Mount Ararat to find the glorious Noah's Ark without me having to do any cardiovascular activity.
Okay, we really want you for your biblical expertise, gentlemen.
That's the one I said right off the bat. Obviously, it's your biblical knowledge. Thank you. Dave, tell me a little bit about your life in the last 30 years that I've missed.
Because I'm not convinced you introduced me terribly well.
That's fair.
Go ahead, Dave.
That's fair.
So Dave Pavey. Yeah. I live on the north coast of Northern Ireland, right? Not to get funny, but people do get funny about that stuff.
They do.
In a little town called Coleraine, and I serve my church in a part-time capacity as a chaplain, and the rest of my week I get to chaplain and look after the pastoral care needs of about 700 employees in a big business in Coleraine. I love it.
That's incredible. That's definitely the man I need carrying me. Hirchie, remind me why you're awesome.
So yeah, excited to be here. A pastor of 516 Ministries and the Gathering Place, Texas, up in the north there, and 516 Mission on the Bearded Bible Brothers YouTube channel, airing now. Check it out. I'm excited though about what's going to happen. There's no better set of guys to follow around Nephilim than 2 of the largest men I know, the Colson brothers.
To the Ark
and to glory.
Every ancient culture has a flood myth. Some estimates over 200 people groups. Most legends deal with a god or gods who choose to destroy civilization for divine retribution. The Babylonian epic of Gilgamesh is the most famous. Gilgamesh was a demigod, 16 to 24 foot tall Nephilim, a hunter, the king of Uruk. He's believed to be linked with the biblical Nimrod, founder of Uruk. Gilgamesh goes on a quest to find the secret of eternal life. He eventually meets the Sumerian Noah character, Uta-Napishtim, legendary king of Shiprak, the only one, along with his family, who survived the worldwide flood sent by Marduk. He was warned to build a boat by the god Enki to house his family and the animals of the world. For remaining loyal and trusting the gods, Uta-Napishtim and his wife are granted immortality.
We are currently in the thriving population of Dubayazit. 5,300 feet above sea level, but if you look right there, that's a little bit taller. In fact, it's like 3 times taller, and that's where we're headed.
We are on many borders, guys. We're talking just 10 miles south of us, that's Iran. 3.5 hours north of us is Russia-occupied Georgia. We know prophetically that one day the armies of the north are going to pass right through here for Ezekiel 38 and 39, the Battle of Gog and Magog, to invade Israel.
So all of that stuff, the geography, the prophetic stuff, that's really important. But we got to talk about the practicalities of this thing. Because if we're going to go up that extinct volcano, Ararat, if we wanted to hike it, it's going to take us 4 days. We should have left about 3 days ago if we're going up tomorrow, right?
What I do know is that y'all all owe me, because this guy right here, who calls himself my brother, he's already taken me across Greece to every high friggin' mountain you could find, and he made me hike up with my 2 legs. My 2 legs learned a lot. They learned they don't do that anymore. So, unbeknownst to him, I have booked 4x4s that we will be sitting in, that will be driving us up to altitude, so that the only cardio we have to do is to pretend like we did cardio on camera, so that nobody knows any better.
We got a pack, we're going out first thing in the morning.
I'm taking plenty of wheels with us.
Genesis 8, 2, 3, and 5. Now the springs of the deep and the floodgates of the heavens had been closed, and the rain had stopped falling from the sky. The water receded steadily from the earth. At the end of 150 days, the water had gone down, and on the first day of the 10th month, the tops of the mountains became visible.
Right, gentlemen, if you would kindly turn around, take a look. There she blows.
Purdy.
Mount Ararat. We're here. We're here at Mount Ararat. Now, supposedly Mount Ararat. And the reason I say supposedly is because in the Bible doesn't just say Mount Ararat, it actually says the mountains of Ararat.
Yeah.
And the Ararat mountain ranges goes.
There's mountains everywhere around here. Look at this.
Spend months walking around the mountains of Ararat. And now here's the other thing. This is actually a volcano. And this volcano began to form during the flood. So there are some people who actually say that this wasn't here, or it certainly wasn't big enough for Noah to land his ark on at the time.
Yes, speculation. People always have it. No, I mean, it could have been made out of, the volcano exploding. It could have been made out of sediment layers. And it's obvious that over, the centuries that it has gotten taller. So that would make sense to me. But we do know for sure that over the last few hundred years that lots of people have said that they have seen it, that they have touched it, that they've walked in it. So I know as a kid I was like, well, how come if Ararat's there and Noah's Ark's there, we don't just find it? Because there's a lot of Ararats, but this one specifically is known as Greater Ararat. And this is where we believe it is. And gentlemen, we're about to ascend that mount, and at the very least, claim it for manly bearded men in search of the Ark.
I have a question first. Would it be okay if we could refer to ourselves as Raiders of the Lost Ark?
I like it. I see no issue.
That's right. There's no copyright at all.
Gentlemen, let's raid that Ark.
Raider. I'm a Raider of the Lost
We
Ark.
named the dog Indiana.
How cool would it be if Harrison Ford strolled out of that 4x4? Genesis 8, 13 through 17. By the first day of the first month of Noah's 601st year, the water had dried up from the earth. Noah then removed the covering from the ark and saw that the surface of the ground was dry. By the 27th day of the second month of the earth was completely dry. Then God said to Noah, "Come out of the ark, you and your wife, and with your sons and their wives. Bring out every kind of living creature that is with you, the birds, the animals, and all the creatures that move along the ground, so that they can multiply in the earth and be fruitful and increase in numbers on it.
Dave, Hirchie, I give you the mountain of pain. Not the mountain of platitudes, not the mountain of porpoises, don't know why it would be, but we've made it up, according to my altimeter, about 9,000 feet before the excessive weight in the front of my vehicle burst the tire. And we've been forced to have them try and repair this tire at 9,000 feet. Upon arriving, we've had wind, hail, snow, clouds, and sunshine.
Don't forget thunder.
And thunder.
And that was just the first 5 minutes.
But Josh, I'm still excited, in spite of the weather, to be standing on this mountain that Noah probably landed on in the ark.
Yeah.
He's been 9.5 odd months on this real low budget cruise, right? And he must have been pretty excited too, because we know he sends out the raven, and the raven comes back, and then he sends out a dove, and the dove comes back, and the dove has nothing, then he sends out the dove again, and the dove comes back with this olive leaf, right? So the flood must have receded low enough for the bird to have picked up this olive leaf, right? This is the place where God says to Noah, Noah, I will no longer wipe out the population of the earth with a flood ever again. And to prove it and to show it and to remind us of it, he puts the rainbow in the sky, doesn't he?
That rainbow is a beautiful sign. It's supposed to represent God's promises, but the enemy counterfeits and hijacks that which is pure and holy and good. And you see, obviously everybody knows, for gay pride with homosexuals, transvestites, you know, there's so many LGBTQ9, different qualifications that people try to identify themselves with and mutilate their bodies. This is no different than the sins of the Nephilim. This is no different than those sins of taking something that God created and perverting it and mixing things that weren't supposed to be mixed.
As quickly as God came and gave this promise, the interesting part is, of course, the enemy came in very quickly as well.
Yeah.
And so we're about to get into some pretty heinous stuff. I would say there's some viewer discretion advised. And,
Thank you, Hirchie.
Probably have the kids maybe step out of the room or at least cover their ears as we tell some of the darker side of what happened in the history after the flood.
Genesis 9:18 through 25. Now the sons of Noah who went out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And Ham was the father of Canaan, and Noah began to be a farmer, and he planted a vineyard. Then he drank of the wine and was drunk and became uncovered in his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his brothers outside. But Shem and Japheth took a garment, laid it on both of their shoulders, and went backward and covered the nakedness of their father. Their faces were turned away, and they did not see their father's nakedness. So Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done to him. Then he said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants. He shall be to his brethren.
Lads, unfortunately, we've had to get off here.
Yeah.
Right, this adventure's turned into an even greater adventure than we thought. We've lost a truck, and now the lads won't go any further because it's just too risky. So we're about 1,000 feet off base camp. But anyway, let's get back to the passage that we just heard read there, because things just start to get weird. and in our English translation, you read it and it just sounds so confusing. Why for this accident that Ham has just had is this curse not put upon him, but upon his son, right? Canaan. It just doesn't make sense in English. But if we go back to the original translation, oh boy, it gets even more disturbing.
Especially if you're a rabbi who speaks Hebrew, and here's why. Leviticus 20:17 shows us that see nakedness, quote unquote, it's a euphemism for sex. All right. So if a man has sexual intercourse with his sister, whether the daughter of his father or his mother, so that he sees her nakedness and she sees his nakedness, it's a disgrace. Yuck.
Gross.
Yeah, I was actually listening to a rabbi talk about this, and as disturbing as it is, it made a lot more sense as to why there was such a punishment. The phrase that we're talking about where it says, and he became revealed inside his tent, in the Hebrew, it meant to invoke a theme of incest. This euphemism for incest, it comes in the prohibitions of Leviticus. So Leviticus 18:6 says, "None of you shall come near anyone of his own flesh to uncover nakedness," which again implies it was more than just, hey, dad's naked, let's make fun of him, but there was an incestual action that took place.
Yeah, Moses was trying to write something very carefully to tell the story that they all knew, but in terms that wasn't too graphically disturbing. But even with that, what you mentioned, this isn't just about homosexuality here and incest. This is rape, basically. This is a son taking advantage of his father when he's inebriated in a state that he can't defend himself. And so it's even more harsh. You understand why Noah's so angry. But yet the curse that Noah gives isn't for Ham. And this is what confuses a lot of Christians. It's for Canaan. Now, gentlemen, I'm not trying to disturb you with these really perverse, stories of what's going on, but this is absolutely necessary to uncover the reasoning behind the curse of Canaan, because as you know later on, it's Canaan's line that intermingles with the seed of the Nephilim. They go haywire, and God has to judge them harshly. But the late Dr. Michael Heiser has this second theory, which is actually one that I believe is the case, referencing the euphemism, your father's nakedness, in Hebrew, and what it really means. So in Leviticus 18:6-7, it says, "None of you shall approach any one of his close relatives to uncover nakedness," which of course we know means sex. "I am the Lord. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your father, which is the nakedness of your mother. She is your mother. You shall not uncover her nakedness. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your father's wife. It is your father's nakedness."
So then you would have to look at the scenario as such. Ham was uncovering his father's nakedness by hooking up with his mom because he was trying to usurp his father's authority and take leadership of that line. And by him giving his mother a child, that would prevent Noah from having a fourth son. Henceforth, he would be in charge and the curse would go. And
It sounds absolutely wild to me, right? But this usurping of authority is actually, it happens in other Eastern cultures. And actually, it's in the Bible too. Right? So you've got Genesis 35, you've got the story of Reuben who lays with Bilhah, right? And then in 2 Samuel 12, I believe it is, you've got David actually sleeps with Saul's wives and concubines. And then just a few chapters later, in chapter 16, you got Absalom. Absalom goes and rapes David's concubines. You're like, what on earth is going on?
Yeah. What happens here is Ham is going, I want to have my lineage be the dynasty. It was about power. It was about control. And it also makes sense in why the scripture continually says that Canaan was the son of Ham.
That's right.
It repeats that over and over.
So people wouldn't get confused when they're like, oh wait, Canaan's mother was Noah's wife. No, that was not Noah's son.
Genesis 10:15-18. Canaan was the father of Sidon, his firstborn, and of the Hittites, Jebusites, Amorites, Girgashites, Hivites, Architites, Sinites, Arvadites, Zemarites, and Hamathites.
Josh, later in the book of Jubilees, which we know is not gospel, but it's a oral handing down of these stories that really closely match the Bible. It still carries on with the main biblical characters, but it says that Canaan, knowing he was cursed, giving an allotment of territory that he despised, ended up taking this luscious, beautiful territory that was allotted to Shem's dynasty, the Levant, that region of Israel that was not supposed to be his. And that's why later on you get the children of Canaan who were already carrying this generational curse from Noah that he cursed them with, intermingling with B'nai Elohim again, these fallen angels, and creating these races of Nephilim that fill the land of Canaan. And then the children of Israel, when they come to inherit the promised land, find giants everywhere.
Isn't that the same reason why we melted the whole planet down with water?
Yeah.
Wish the story stopped there, but if you look at Noah's grandchildren, they pretty much all messed it up for the rest of us.
And on top of that, we have archaeological proof to prove it here in Turkey. So I think we have to head to the site that has been causing archaeologists to scratch their heads since they newly discovered it, which is Göbekli Tepe, and to look at some weird carvings and some weird rocks. Ones that even confuse you, I bet, if you see it.
I like that.
Yeah,
Let's go.
Josephus' Antiquities of the Jews, Book 1, Chapter 4. Now the sons of Noah were three, Shem and Japheth and Ham, born 100 years before the deluge. These first of all descended from the mountains into the plains and fixed their habitation there, and persuaded others who were greatly afraid of the lower grounds on account of the flood, and were so very loth to come down from the higher places to venture to follow their examples.
Well, gentlemen, finally we made it to Gobekli Tepe. This is known as the oldest Neolithic site, the oldest temple ever discovered. Another interesting fact is that, according to Josephus, Noah's grandchildren were said to have lived here for quite a while after the flood.
Yeah.
And they did so out of fear that another flood might actually happen.
Yeah. Because this site is higher elevation than all the plains around it. This is the highest tip of the Fertile Crescent, the furthest northwest you can get of Mesopotamia, of those plains. And just south of here is the Euphrates River. There's biblical Haran, where Abraham and Terah, all of our fathers of faith originated from. Just 75 kilometers in all directions, there's more of these mounds, these circular Stonehenge kind of mounds. Like you said, really making this that first civilization that survived after the flood. They came here, they set up shop, and started apostasy all over again after God's reset button was hit.
There's 149 of these statues, sculptures that are here, and they represent humans and animals. There's like 86 kinds of animals, 38 different humans. There's some hybrid things going on in here that I'm not sure what kind of creature they are, but they definitely were not naturally made by God, that were part of the contamination along with the post-flood creatures that we know God preserved and protected. So there's a lot left to uncover here.
You see right there, those central pillars, that's the enigma, that's the mystery of this whole site. These are like standing stones of old, but they're in the shape of a T, almost like totem poles. But most people don't know, there's 43 that have been uncovered so far at the site. They believe that there's 250 left all around here that hasn't been uncovered. But they are humanoid shape. They're anthropomorphic. We know this because we see belts, we see hands that are carved into the side of them, shows that they are supposed to represent humans. These are much bigger than the other pillars. I know there's something special about that.
That's it. If you look at it, you'll see like a clear hierarchy among these monoliths that are up to 18 feet tall, and a lot of scholars believe that these represent the gods or the Nephilim pantheon, if you like. And then you notice that these ones around, these smaller ones around that are more richly decorated, they're all focused on the big two. And so the thought is that these represented the worshippers set upon the gods in the middle.
This was another shamanistic cult, right? And so the watchers, or the Nephilim, these are the elite. That's why they're in the middle. They're getting worship. And the crazy thing about what the Nephilim brought to them, why they would worship them, is they brought to them innovation, technology, things that were millennia ahead of their time, where they were not just these Stone Age cavemen type followers, hunter-gatherers that we've been taught, with just the cave dwellings and hoping they can make a fire and make a wheel. This was created by someone who was taught how to make this, because there's intricate details that we see in this very site.
There's evidence that this site was also a Neolithic skull cult. Separated human heads and headless bodies are seen on reliefs here.
Yeah, but that's what they did. They worshiped these heads, and they kept these skulls all around the area to decorate the sacred sites.
There's evidence that Nephilim had elongated skulls, dome-shaped skulls, And you can see that through every Nephilim culture throughout history. And mankind took notice and they revered the special shape of their heads as, you know, that's what gods look like. And they wanted their children to look like gods. You can find those alien-like skulls now from humanoid shaping on every continent except Antarctica, because they tried to force their own skulls of their children into the shapes of the gods to emulate them. It's crazy.
You look at the hieroglyphics on ancient Egypt and you see those same elongated skulls. So some of them were genetic. You know, although some of the skulls found in South America were definitely bound and mutilated to get their shape, our friend Mondo Gonzalez of Prophecy Watchers partnered with Eli Marzulli to test some of the Nephilim skulls and found that they weren't entirely human.
Surprise, surprise. You know, there's amazing stories throughout history, such as the Spanish conquistadors that came to the New World. They were sailing around South America, the region of Patagonia, and they found giants. The historians that went with them chronicled the many giant encounters they had. They even captured 2 giants and put them on the boat, sailed back to Spain, but they died, had to throw them off, you know, into the ocean. But even histories of Native Americans, they all speak of wars that the Native Americans had with giants, the big man.
I'm thinking if the giant died on the boat, I'm still not throwing it overboard. I'm gonna make money on that thing.
It's gonna be rotting and stinking, dude.
I don't care, dude. You know how much money people will pay to see a dead giant? So guys, this Gobekli Tepe has actually become a head scratcher for a lot of scientists. So people who are evolutionists, this thing ain't working for them. It does not match up to what they teach. However, as believers, as Christians, it makes perfect sense to us, especially those of us who actually read our Bibles and look into what the Word of God says about creation, the flood, and all the things that came during that time frame in Genesis.
Well, gentlemen, it's been a trip.
It was fun, guys. Hopefully we'll get to meet again. But next week, Josh, we have to follow the trail of the new breed Nephilim and how they made it to the plains of Shinar. And they obey the first world dictator, who is also a Nephilim named Nimrod. But to tell that story, we have to head back to Israel.
I mean, if y'all want me to just hang out, Caleb can probably tell the story by himself. Y'all got any space in Northern Ireland?
We will meet again, gentlemen.
I don't need to find any
Good to see you, sir.
new hybrid Nephilim.
Did you know the Bearded Bible Brothers is an outreach of Zola Levitt Ministries? That means we are entirely donor funded. Consider giving at levitt.com. You can also join the Bearded Bible Bonanza to access additional content at patreon.com/Bearded Bible Bonanza. Please support our mission to spread the gospel of Yeshua by subscribing to our social media and sharing our online messages. And as always, pray for the peace of Jerusalem.